What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Same Circle Wrestling. After a relatively lengthy break, we want to talk about
We were all on vacation.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's also been a relatively uneventful uh, month or so for wrestling, with the exception of Ultima Lucha. Pretty much all we've really seen is the build-up for SummerSlam and Ultima Lucha, which we're definitely going to cover. Do we want to talk maybe WWE first, get that shit over with?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot to cover, so it'd be done with that relatively quick.
Yeah, I mean, we just basically have to build up to SummerSlam, which isn't that eventful this year. I mean, they sold their first match for that, 4 weeks ago, and it's basically been the slowest build up for that anyways.
Yeah, that's something I'm not sure if I've touched on this show before, but the lack of a big summer angle in WWE has been very apparent the past 2 years, and it's like, what are they do? They're not even trying anymore.
Yeah, I think we've said that like very many times. And WWE is at the point, at least for me, where I have no interest in tuning in unless it's a big pay-per-view of some sort. And even with SummerSlam this year, I don't think the build's been that great. So I really am not super excited for SummerSlam, with the exception of Lesnar and Undertaker.
Yeah, like pretty much the three things that I'm looking forward to for SummerSlam is definitely going to be Lesnar and Undertaker, because I mean, something big has got to happen here. Either, Lesnar puts down Taker for good, or Taker gets his redemption match, whatever. I mean, it's going to be a fun 15 minutes to watch. I think it's going to be a really hectic 15 minutes, because, I mean, we saw Taker at WrestleMania and he didn't look that great. So it's kind of scary to see what happens here. Also, I'm interested in Cena and Rollins, because you still have Sheamus and that whole botch situation on Raw when Sheamus tried to cash in, quote-unquote. So, I mean, that's a factor to watch, especially if they just released all these Cena shirts that say 15 times champion. It's going to be hard to believe he's going to get the title at the pay-per-view right after you release the t-shirt. And, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, who's going to finally turn heel on the other one.
At this point, I wouldn't even be surprised if they just give it to Cena after making the t-shirts. But I didn't watch Raw, so realistically I had no idea that Sheamus had anything to do with it. I was thinking, Sheamus has to show up at SummerSlam because, he hasn't been around, but you just mentioned he was on Raw, so...
Yeah, Sheamus came back down towards the end of the main event, and he just kind of took the briefcase and handed it to the referee, but the referee was like, what the fuck do I do with this? And Sheamus is like, I want to cash in. And he goes, I don't know. And he goes, well, I want to cash in right now. I mean, it's Randy Orton versus Seth. I can beat Seth right now. And the ref's like, I don't know. Turns around, he goes, I guess we're gonna cash it in. And Sheamus turns around and Orton hits him with an RKO to end that.
Yeah, the classic, try to cash it in, but fail.
Well, the botch was Randy wasn't ready for the RKO when he handed the briefcase to the ref, so they had to kind of pause until Randy could get in position, so Sheamus just stood there playing tug-of-war with the referee.
Yeah, they did that with Rollins all year last year.
Yeah, pretty much that's what you're seeing now. I just hope it doesn't take an entire goddamn year to cash in that briefcase.
Yeah, they can't do that 2 years in a row.
It's really, it's just embarrassing, really. Pretty much the only reaction there is left is just to cringe when you watch it.
And plus Sheamus carrying a briefcase, I mean, I didn't think he could look any lamer after he braided his beard, but I guess we have the answer there.
I mean, it's like Raw has dropped down, in my opinion, and SmackDown is off the edge now. It's like when you're watching NFL preseason football over SmackDown, it's like that something's wrong with the product.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, we were mentioning earlier, you've got the NFL preseason running parallel to WWE SmackDown. It's almost poetic, these two shows that nothing of any relevance is happening on either.
Well, the issue is with SmackDown, they've bailed on it until next year. They're not putting any effort into it because they're still doing Tough Enough, and that's filmed the same night, so all the producers are down in Florida doing Tough Enough rather than at the SmackDown tapings. And then in the early spring SmackDown's going to USA, so they're not doing anything to help Sci-Fi's ratings. They're going to just hold off until they can put it on USA.
Oh, true. And then we noticed earlier, we saw that they were going into another Taker versus Brock recap, which is about the 10th time we've seen that. So we flipped back over to the game. Yeah. And then had to be 5-7 minutes later, we flipped back over to SmackDown, and it's still the exact same recap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like surrounding every commercial break. Come watch a 52-year-old man get his ass kicked by a 37-year-old beast.
And it's not just Raw and SmackDown either. It's like NXT at this point has dropped off so hard because now you just have like 4 squash matches and then a main event, which is a predictable main event most of the time, and you're dragging out to these takeover shows, which are quarterly. And there's a takeover coming up in Brooklyn, correct?
The day is the 22nd.
And that's Balor and Owens rematch
on a ladder.
And it happens to be running counter to a very strong ROH card that is running in New York City at the same time, which makes the inclusion of Jushin Thunder Liger all the more intriguing, as ROH has been booking a lot of New Japan talent during the past year or two.
Well, it's just a great big pissing match between the two because ROH has been doing their shows right along WrestleManias, right in the same city.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's turning into a little bit. I doubt WWE would consider it a war, as that would imply that ROH is on a little bit of an equal standing, but it's becoming clear that they're looking to use NXT with the touring and everything and trying to make it its own brand. It looks like they're trying to use that to go on the offensive against the indies. Mm-hmm. And considering the past and how WWF and Vince went after the territories, it looks like the worst case scenario is Triple H trying to do the same to the indies with NXT. And that is the worst case scenario for the wrestling industry as a whole.
That's exactly what NXT is really just trying to phase out any other minor leagues, and they're sort of just trying to be the minor league. And it's not going to work that way, especially with promotions like Lucha Underground and Ring of Honor putting on good cards, putting on good matches, getting good talent. A lot of talent that's like overlooked by WWE. A lot of ex-WWE guys that go there and end up being at the top of the roster, A-match guys. And I think even TNA has that kind of thing. I think EC3 he's scheduled for a match with GFW's who is
I was reading that earlier. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's an ex WWE guy. I forgot who it was.
Wasn't he just in NXT? It's not CJ Parker.
Is it Chris Masters?
No.
I know he's over on GFW.
Shit, I just looked at it too.
I have no idea.
I think it's next week, next Wednesday.
Or is it Justin Gabriel?
Yes, I think so. Yep, I think it is Justin Gabriel. They changed his name to like CJ Black or some shit.
Oh, that's what it is. PJ Black.
PJ Black. Yep, it's Justin Gabriel. So it's like, you got all this talent that's coming from WWE, and they're filling out the top of these cards.
Well, they gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what TNA basically was the WWE rejects for all those years. And, I mean, now WWE's getting to the point where it's stale and stagnant, and you guys got guys like Alberto El Patron and Johnny Mundo fucking running house in AAA.
It goes to show, like, you have B-level, C-level guys in WWE that are now A-level guys in these other promotions, and those promotions seem to be doing better than WWE is.
Well, I mean, it's all minor league idea because WWE is making more money than any of these groups combined. It's just the fact that it's like a relative small group that are watching Lucha Underground. They're still hardly pulling a rating when those shows are airing on TV. And, WWE is still leading a lot of nights for whatever fucking reason. But, I mean, they just don't have the exposure.
Yeah, it's all the name. Like, bottom line is really, when you hear WWE, you think wrestling. There's no, I feel like anyone who's a casual fan of wrestling doesn't really understand that there's other promotions out there. I mean, I'm sure most people probably haven't even heard of Ring of Honor or even TNA. And it's like, you know, if you're a more active wrestling fan, you obviously know all about all these promotions.
The one that really jumped out at me was PWG because I didn't realize how goddamn crazy it was over there.
Oh yeah, that's one of the best indies going and has been for a couple years now.
And they only do like a show a month, and they're in 2 different venues the entire time.
Yeah,
and it's tough because how do you get? It's hard to get press in the wrestling world when WWE's already the Goliath that it is.
Well, they're doing it the old-fashioned way through T-shirts and DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the future of it is you're just going to have to find your own special little niche that the WWE either can't or won't fill. And I feel with Lucha Underground, you've got
violence.
it's really the hyper-modern presentation, the presentation of it as a TV show about a wrestling promotion more so.
Right.
And just the way that show is set up, it's really perfectly formulated to be that alternative to WWE that we've all been waiting for so long. They've got the different style of presentation. They've got the in with AAA to have the access to the Mexican pool of wrestlers from over there that WWE either can't or won't get their hands on. And so...
They also don't have the restrictions.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like, you see, there's a movement going around. There's the hashtag, I think Netflix needs Lucha. And I think Lucha Underground, the way it's structured, it really would lend itself very well to that whole Netflix ideal of just dropping a whole season all at once, having people just binge watch it from from beginning to end. And I feel like something like that could very easily work in Lucha Underground's favor and legitimize it, make it an actual threat to WWE.
See, and even if it was a running TV show and they did, like a Hulu or a Netflix where they take it over after the season's over and throw it on there, you're going to get a lot more people coming in just because they have Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll just naturally be interested in what else is on there. I mean, that's how I find a lot of my stuff on Netflix, so...
Right, I mean, most people that are on Netflix already have nothing to do. They're sitting around flipping through it, and, most of the things I watch on Netflix, it's like, what the hell is this? And then I watch it, and it's, it's...
You're still like that at the end, but... I still watch things and I'm just as confused at the end.
Yeah, but I also find a lot of things on there that's like, that I wouldn't have expected to like. So I think that realistically it would be a good idea, especially for Lucha Underground with that format, to go to a Netflix or a Hulu or of some sort. But I think, other than that, I mean, I don't have much else to say about WWE at this point. I mean, maybe you guys do because you guys have been watching it a little bit more than I have, but for me, I think I'm out of this one.
I think we pretty much found our segue into Ultima Lucha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, what a show. I really wasn't expecting much, but when they gave away, like, the first 2 matches the week before Ultima Lucha, and then you had, like, that Cage and the Mac match. Once that really took off, I went, oh, fuck, this is going to be much bigger than I even anticipated.
Yeah, they really opened that strong with that match. Like, lots of cool spots.
The beer can stunner.
The tribute to Steve Austin, that was really cool.
The cinder blocks in the top, very Seth Rollins.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you can't curb stomp in WWE, but in Lucha Underground, we can curb stomp guys through a cinder block.
Yeah. And I want to say, it was Willie Mack, and I forget who the other one was, but in PWG, him and the other guy did a spot where Willie Mack did the beer drinking and the stunner, and the other guy did a Rock tribute, and they just went back and forth with the Rock and Austin signature moves for a minute, and it was a really hot segment. The crowd ate it up, and it was nice to see a throwback to that in there.
It was a good stunner too. I thought he executed it pretty well.
Especially on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we saw the trios championships.
Which kind of gave away the whole theme of the show once you realize that the Disciples of Death were going to win that. You're kind of like, well, it must suck to be Prince Puma right now.
Yeah, you kind of realize that there's going to be some title changes. But it was a good match. They showed another Son of Havoc spot, another
crazy Angelico
jump, yeah. And then Evilise was a little bit.
He did a thing at Triple Mania where he was wearing a GoPro.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he wore a GoPro. If it's anything like how Triple Mania was produced, that GoPro footage probably doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But he was wearing a GoPro.
That'd be terrifying. Imagine working a cage match knowing that you can't take a single front bump.
Imagine working a cage match with 8 other people inside the cage.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look for that footage, see if it exists.
I don't think they actually used it on the broadcast at all. I wasn't really paying attention all the way through, but...
No, but really anyways, back to Lucha.
Drago and Hernandez. I don't know, I felt like I pretty much expected it to go this way. I expected Drago to get the win. I think at the end of Ultima Lucha 2, we saw Drago leaving, shaking hands with Aerostar, so we don't know if he's going to be back. I don't know what the situation is for Season 2.
Didn't they both blast off into outer space?
Yeah, I think Drago had the whole dragon noise and flames and shit.
Yeah, and then Aerostar just shoots off like a firework.
Yeah. So, that's pretty awesome. So then we moved to night 2, which was the week after, 2 hours long. And it opened with Johnny Mundo and El Patron. And I thought this was a good match. It should have... I expected a little more out of it, and I don't know why I did. Especially with it being an opener.
I mean, it had its blood spot. And
yeah. No, it wasn't a bad match by any means, but...
I think Melina kind of killed it because she kind of...
Yeah.
changed the whole theme of that match. It was no longer a grudge match between those two. It was a grudge match plus one.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice to see to have that callback to their history in WWE. I mean, just the fact that there was no build-up to it really just sort of took away from the rest of the match. But then you did have the very satisfying payback spot where Alberto puts Johnny through the door of the office. And so he got his comeuppance on that. That was a very well executed spot. Well good.
Then we can talk Vampiro and Pentagon, because I thought that was probably, if not my favorite match from the night. I would say it probably was, realistically, because I thought Muertes and Puma was very good, but I thought this was probably the most entertaining match on that card.
For like a 12-minute match, that was batshit insane. I was watching the whole thing and just kind of going, is like a 50-year-old man really doing this?
Yeah, I mean, you got all kinds of like extreme spots, like the tacks, you got light tubes, you got flaming tables.
Which actually had to happen twice.
Really?
During the tape. Yeah, well, they didn't have to go through the table twice, they had to light it like 2 or 3 times. So there was some doctoring to how that looked on Ultima Lucha.
Yeah, that was really not how I was expecting that match to go going in. I was expecting maybe a hardcore match, but that became a full-blown death match.
Yeah.
And if you watch a little CZW, I mean, you've seen plenty of death matches, and there's really not a lot of storytelling in them. It's just stupid, dangerous spots. You got your light tubes, your panes of glass, sometimes even your Legos. But I feel like this match was a testament to just what a little bit of good storytelling can do for a death match. It really put over the whole idea of the blood feud, the grudge between them, and it really made the brutality an integral element of the storytelling.
it actually added to the match, which is something you don't see a lot of in death matches like that nowadays.
Yeah, and the story was just really cool. It was something that I really didn't see coming. Seeing, you have Pentagon talking about his master for most of the season, and then you have, Vampiro essentially being that final test for Pentagon. And turns out Vampiro is the master that he's been talking to.
Yeah, this swerve of the year right there for me.
He's the satanic Mr. Miyagi.
Sweep the leg.
Oh, let's talk Gift of the Gods. It's a whole new concept.
Oh, yep.
They revealed it, I believe it was the week before Ultima Lucha.
They took some pot shots at Money in the Bank with the reveal, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
You must use it within a year.
No cashing in.
Yeah, you must let me know.
I like to promote my matches.
So essentially what it is those 7 medallions that have been circulated throughout Lucha Underground for the entire season. They all come together to form one belt, which essentially, we can basically say it works like a Money in the Bank, but you gotta give Dario some leeway because he does have to promote it.
You gotta do a couple lines of coke and take heads at the door.
Yeah. So they had a 7-way match, and Phoenix comes out on top, which I thought was cool because Phoenix was the guy that got kind of ripped off of his medallion in the first place.
But what a fall for King Cuerno.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking
half
the same
middle
thing.
of the season being like the guy, and then all of a sudden, well, not the guy, but like the main heel, and then all of a sudden he's losing in a 7-man match to close out the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that when I was watching it. But
like that King Cuerno Johnny Mundo match before he turned. Oh my god.
Yeah.
The cage match.
Other than that, I don't have much to say about that match. I thought it was pretty cool. They had some decent spots in that match as well. I think it was
match because you had the Moth show up anyways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, true.
And Sexy Star legitimately got hurt because of Big Rick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she got a nasty concussion and was bleeding because Big Rick doesn't know how to spot people. Probably because of the one eye, but...
I think it was primarily to get these guys on the card. Because they have a really good roster, so they do want to throw the rest of these guys on the card. I wouldn't want to see, an Ultima Lucha card without Aerostar and, Sexy Star, Jack Evans, King Cuerno. You don't want to see any of those guys not on the card.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes down the line with season 2. Then
if we get a season 2.
Yeah, I have faith that they're gonna definitely do a season 2.
Yeah, reports have it being more of a matter of when and not if, but you never really can be sure, but it's just a matter of if they're going to be able to keep up the production quality or not at this point.
Yeah. Well, they are moving to a new temple.
Yeah. I have to get out of this temple. It's going to become too violent.
It's not safe here.
He's just going to buy a warehouse with a dumpster.
Yeah. He's going to buy a trampoline, put it in his backyard.
I want to fight to death on the trampoline. But no flips.
I have to say, I'm going to be very disappointed if we don't get a between-season special. It's just a cannonball run style. The entire Lucha Underground roster just racing to the new temple for a title shot or whatever. 100,000 of Dario's money, whatever prize you want. But just that image is just too perfect. Fits in with...
Everybody's trying to get into the door to the temple, and fucking Angelico just falls from the ceiling with a goddamn parachute drinking Red Bull. I win!
Onto the trampoline.
Yeah, onto the trampoline.
It's too good not to hit.
All of Dario's coke goes flying up in the air.
Oh, I want to I remember watching the ending sequence, and I remember seeing Cueto take that bowl off of his table, and I was like, "What the fuck? What significance did that have to him?" Like he came back for it like it was important, and like he grabbed it off his desk. I was like, "What does that even mean, dude?" Like,
Remember, he's got an entire safe full of money and another one full of drugs, and then he comes back for the bowl.
or the bowl is cocaine.
Yeah.
True.
And this is an actual well-written program. I mean, that's a Chekhov's gun. They're not going to have that be shown if it's not important.
Yeah, like it definitely has some sort of merit.
I hope so.
I mean, we'll talk the rest of that ending segment after these last two matches, but Blue Demon Jr. and Tejano, good match, and then we ended up seeing Chavo come out, and for some reason attacks Blue Demon, or attacks Tejano rather.
Because it's Mexico versus Texas.
Yeah. Good match though, I thought. Blue Demon hasn't really been a big part of the storyline. They decided to put him in there. Tejano has gotten hot towards the end of the season, I thought.
Yeah, he's been quiet since he lost the AAA title to Patron early in the season. Like, he's just kind of been there.
Yeah. And then we also saw the Lucha Underground Championship, which was Mil Muertes and Prince Puma.
Which was just an epic beatdown.
Really, I expected it to go the way that it did. It was just a matter of how it was finished. I don't remember how many times Puma hit his finisher, but it was like, it just seemed like it was ineffective, the way they were telling the story. And Muertes is essentially the Brock Lesnar powerhouse now.
Yeah, and I accidentally saw the result a couple weeks before Ultima Lucha, so I already kind of had it beat into me that was going to happen. I just didn't think they were going to make it as obvious and as clean as they did to finish out the season, especially since they protected Puma for like 20 straight episodes.
Well, yeah, they didn't have Conan either, so I think that was part of the story reason that the kayfabe reason that Puma didn't win or put up as much of a fight as you would have expected.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I mean, it was a pretty basic match, some basic storytelling, but it did what it set out to do effectively. I mean, in ring wise, I mean, it was at least a 4-star match, and it was right up there with Vampiro and Pentagon for match of the night, but I didn't really think it was anything mind-blowing like you'd expect to see from the main event of Lucha Underground's biggest show of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it didn't even touch the Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Seth Rollins match from Royal Rumble, which is still probably one of the best matches this year.
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah. Yep. I think we've said that a bunch of times that Cena's been putting on awesome matches.
And
recently.
he's been cleared to compete, even though he got his face busted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a broken nose. I mean, you can work with it after a short amount of time. I believe Cody Rhodes had a broken nose not too long ago and worked through that.
Yeah,
I mean,
but he had to have 2 surgeries, including respiratory reconstructive surgery.
Yeah. I mean, it just comes down to not taking stupid bumps.
Yeah, which is what I'm kind of worried about for the end of the pay-per-view at SummerSlam, because how are they going to get as brutal without taking that risk that John Cena re-injures the nose?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
That's why it almost needs a Sheamus cash-in, and then we'll just end up with Cena and Rollins feuding over the U.S. title.
I mean, even... I don't know. I want to see Sheamus come in and cash it in, whether he succeeds or fails. I think more than likely he's going to fail, because I don't see Rollins losing the belt anytime soon unless it's to Cena.
Well, the thing is, they've already started listing the house shows for like September, October, November, and they're still saying that the main event is going to be Seth Rollins and John Cena. So whatever happens, this isn't a one-off show of them going after one another. It's just interesting to see what they do about the U.S. title. Like, I can still see this coming Monday that Cesaro takes the U.S. title off John Cena, so the winner takes all just turns into a U.S. or a WWE Championship match, the way it should be. Because I mean, Cena gets nothing by having them both, and why the hell does Seth Rollins want them both?
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't need them both, really. Rollins has been making his name. I mean, he says it every single week that he's the WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
As if you didn't know.
And I think, realistically, that's the best case scenario would be to have anyone really take the title off of Cena before the pay-per-view, because as it is, you're having it set up to be the worst case scenario where if Cena were to beat Seth Rollins, then he wins the title, and you've sort of devalued the challenge at that point, the open challenge for the U.S. title, where he's now beyond the U.S. title. That's not his primary concern, and all the months leading up to that with the open challenge have just amounted to John Cena going over the upcoming NXT guys and the brighter side of the mid-card for no apparent reason.
Yeah, it's like you build up the U.S. title just to basically merge it with the WWE champion, and it's like you could be using that belt to build somebody up.
Well, that's why I think it's got to go to Cesaro, because we've seen Kevin Owens with a title not too long ago, and if you're going to make the NXT title be that important, you can't just throw him on the U.S. title. Give it to Cesaro. He's been putting on fucking amazing matches. So, I mean, that's a perfect opportunity to transition it forward and give Cesaro something to, cling to.
Yeah, and it is about time to give Cesaro something that validates what the push that he's been getting.
By the way, you can tell how buried Damian Sandow is Monday. Because Monday was Sandow Appreciation Day, and he didn't even have a comedic backstage spot during Raw. Like, he was off the entire program.
I don't understand it either.
Like, they had thousands of people retweeting Sandow Appreciation Day, and at WWE, and they didn't even think to put him on the show. Like, even if he was doing a backstage Sonic commercial or some stupid shit like that, like, they just straight up ignored him.
It's a tragedy from where he was at earlier this year, and right in the final two of that Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania. He was one of the most over guys on the roster, and WWE just completely declined to capitalize on any of it.
Well, because they don't believe in him as a singles competitor. Vince thinks he's just there to be a clown. Triple H doesn't give a shit because he's too busy trying to book NXT.
Yep.
Even if that's the case, it's like, put him in a tag team. Give him something to do.
Well, he was in the tag team, except the whole Hulk Hogan thing happened.
Yeah, but it's like you can't work around that.
No, they got a one-track mind.
Yeah, that's a try to work around it and bring Sandow back under some other gimmick. It's basically an explicit way of acknowledging on TV that the whole Hulk Hogan situation actually happened, which is clearly something that they'd rather not do. They'd rather just stick their fingers in their ears.
Yeah, but it's like, just suck it up. Like, honestly, I think Sandow can get over with like any of those gimmicks they give him at this point because of the way that his fan base is.
Yeah,
well, he's got a new one. He already has his new gimmick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a rapper.
Oh, yeah, that's right, from the Xavier Woods.
John Cena, too.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, he spent an entire evening responding to Twitter Q&As, but every response that he gave was in, like, rap and rhyme.
Yeah, that's a shame because I'm really not a fan of his persona on the up, down, down, the Let's Play videos or whatever. They're way too forced, cringeworthy. It's just not any of his better work.
I mean, he's obviously a great entertainer, and that's what they're looking for. I mean, look how many people go on TV each week for WWE and are just shitty entertainers.
Yeah.
Which is why, I really have to hope that Roman Reigns ends up going to the Wyatt family.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one who needs someone to speak for him. It would not make sense to put Dean Ambrose over there because, you're just going to make him the second dog again, which is what he's been the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, and I've wanted Roman Reigns to go heel for a long time. Especially with the way that, his whole push ended up panning out. It's now the fan base just doesn't like him anyway, so capitalize on it.
Yeah, just make him part of the Wyatt family and have Wyatt show him, this world doesn't love you. I believe in you. I love you. And, all of a sudden Wyatt can be almost like his manager. Which in effect would help Bray Wyatt because then he can step in. He can be a manager that can actually back up his words with wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happens when Paul Heyman gets cornered. Can you imagine Bray Wyatt speaking for you and all of a sudden just running train if you disagree?
See, I mean, Wyatt, that the position Wyatt's in right now could benefit that. I mean, he doesn't seem to get the push that he deserves, and he's never in. I mean, he's in a big match once in a while, but he doesn't ever seem to be in the spotlight as much as he should be. So, I mean, I guess realistically that could work out for him.
Yeah, they could become the new tandem because, I mean, Roman Reigns works great in duos because then you don't have to give him all the hate in the world and you don't have to give him all the love in the world because you can deflect it. I mean, that's what he was in the Shield, and now you look at him, they don't send him out there alone. He's got to go out there and be buddy cop with Dean Ambrose. So just deflect that and make it the evil version with Bray Wyatt. Because that's essentially what Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt are right now anyways. They're two sides of the same coin. One's chaotic good and one's chaotic evil.
And I wouldn't mind seeing Reigns and Ambrose feuding.
Well, look what Ambrose and Rollins did when they feuded. Those two guys know each other so well, so just changing out Rollins for Reigns would be one hell of a show, and they'd sell a lot of tickets.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that Shield thing where, if you have any of those three guys in a match, it's going to have a draw.
Yeah. And that way they can move towards that triple threat that they keep saying they want to do. They can flip Seth Rollins' face by having the Authority turn on him. Then you still have Roman Reigns as the heel, and then all of a sudden you have Dean Ambrose as the anti-hero because he's never really had a side other than down with everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like at this point, all of the speculation that we do on this show, it's never gonna come to fruition because of
it's too well thought through.
Yeah, because we actually think about it. And that's what we're doing wrong. I think realistically we just need to spurt out the first goddamn idea that comes to our mind, write it down on a piece of paper,
and send it to a 78-year-old man who has no touch with reality.
Yep, and then it's on the script and it's on Raw in 3 days.
Essentially it, but then, I mean, your knee-jerk reaction is something that logically follows what you just saw, and that isn't what WWE does either. WWE seems to take a look at the situation, choose the worst possible outcome, and then go with that.
It's like they start from scratch every week.
Yeah, and it's there's no continuity for a character. They just throw wins and losses around. I mean, they made Wade Barrett King of the Ring, and he's done literally nothing. Right now, he's the fourth guy in on that the tag team match for SummerSlam.
Yeah, and that's the saddest part is it's been a recurring theme throughout Wade Barrett's career is whenever he gets one of his intercontinental runs, whenever he gets a solid push, he just jobs out constantly and consistently. And they've taken that to a new extreme now that he's the King of the Ring winner, and it just makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, back in the day, it was you had B card storylines that you were interested in, you wanted to see what happens next week on Raw. you had like during the Attitude Era, and I've been watching the Attitude Era a lot, and it's like the pace of that show is just so much faster than what they put out now.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like you have maybe 4 or 5 major storylines that are going on at once, and nowadays you have maybe 2 max. And back then it was like, oh, I want to see what Road Dogg and Billy Gunn are gonna do next week, and they're B-level on the card every week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a runner-up to Austin and, you know, whoever he was feuding with at the time, Mankind or whatever. It's like, it's unbelievable that they can't come up with any stories that can accommodate these B and C level matches.
Yeah, what it comes down to is we need a Val Venus on the roster nowadays to fuck someone's wife, clearly.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, that's what's happening with Dolph Ziggler and Rusev.
Yeah.
It's like there's no B-level storylines unless it involves a girlfriend or an ex-girlfriend or a wife or a sister or something like that. Like, they don't even have the forethought to be like, well, these two grew up in neighboring cities and they just don't like each other. I mean, that would work for me.
Well, and back in the day, I mean, it was like Sable could carry herself without even being good at like anything.
Yeah.
It's like she could powerbomb people, but she couldn't talk very well. It's like the only thing she was there for was because she was good looking, you know, and like and still even that's like But I mean, like, realistically, you know, she was there to overshadow Mark Marrow, and even that really didn't last very long. But it's like, still, you want to come back and you still want to see this thing. Like, you're still interested in watching it.
Yeah. But let's not get me started on the whole Rusev and Ziggler angle, because I won't be able to stop myself. That's just been such a shit show. And honestly, all the parts of it where Rusev is involved have been gold. Rusev knows how to take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad like almost nobody else on the roster. But anything that has to do with Dolph Ziggler or Lana is just dog shit.
And it's just gone nowhere fast. Like, the entire thing has gone nowhere fast.
And taking Dolph Ziggler off TV and out of the feud has really taken all the gas out of the feud altogether. And you have no more heat for Dolph, no more heat for Lana. They're both non-factors at this point almost. Summer Rae, bless her heart, she's actually been doing good work. Her acting's been top-notch. And she's almost been a better Lana than Lana's been, but there's just nothing going right with that feud outside of Rusev.
It just shows they need to bring back the second championship title on the top of the card, because obviously they have their 4 or 5 main event bona fide superstars, but they got like 10, 15 people that can go back and forth between fighting for the Intercontinental title and fighting for the WWE Championship that are just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. Mark Henry has been on TV twice in the past 2 weeks, and not once can I remember what the hell he did. I just remember his entrance theme.
What's funny is that, like, anytime they give one of the belts to anyone outside of Rollins, Lesnar, Cena, they get injured. And
fucking right back.
And it doesn't even matter, because the injury almost doesn't matter at all, because at this point the belts don't have any merit to them.
And a week or two ago, it was looking like the worst case scenario, critical mass, because you had your U.S. title holder injured.
Yeah.
And he was in a feud with the WWE champion, so he wasn't able to do anything too. Then you had Ryback, who was out.
Ryback, Money in the Bank.
And Money in the Bank's tied in with the WWE Championship out of necessity. It was at the point where the only titles on your show were the tag titles, and that's the tag division.
Yep.
And it's just, it could not get any worse of a situation. There's just...
And even the tag division is, like, big. Yeah. They have a big tag division, and they have guys with potential, and there's no storylines at all.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys remember the big pull apart between Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker from a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember who the first people out of the gate were to separate the two groups? And I guarantee this is a Vince McMahon setup. The first 2 people out there as like non-security but wrestlers trying to separate people were the fucking Ascension. They were the first two out running down there. That was like their screen time for the entire quarter.
Yeah. I remember that.
They
had to get out
like
there.
the Ascension. Build them up. Give them something relative to do. They only suck because we don't believe in them as credible people.
Yeah, and if you're just
you can have them win.
Yeah, if you're gonna keep them off screen, then it's not gonna help them at all.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the Lucha Dragons like twice in the past month.
I mean,
those are some quality teams.
Yeah, and I mean, we're looking at NXT notes, and it's like even Samoa Joe, like you brought Samoa Joe on the roster, and he's got all this momentum coming in, and then you just have him facing Rhino and beating Rhino out.
But he at Takeover he's gonna face Bull Dempsey, and Baron Corbin, and we're finally gonna see if Baron Corbin isn't a piece of shit doing squash matches.
Yeah. See, and that's I don't know. Like I feel like they've drawn him out so long that he's lost his effect. Yeah. Like there's no every time you see Baron Corbin come out, it's Baron Corbin versus blank. It's Baron Corbin in action next. When you see that on NXT, you know it's a squash match. And every time he comes out, it's a 15-second to under 2-minute match. And there's no reason for him to even be on the card besides keeping him fresh in your mind. And it's like you got to expect they have some sort of plan for him. But at this point, it's like they've killed it all. It's just you don't want to see that anymore.
I have to say, Samoa Joe's NXT career so far contains one of the great ironies in recent wrestling history, in that his theme music is so clearly a knockoff of the theme he was using in TNA with the Godzilla intro into Mama Said Knock You Out. And it's just so weird to see the WWE affiliated company using the mediocre knockoff theme of a real theme. It's just so backwards, and it really shows where things are at right now.
Yeah. See, and I don't even remember what Sting's theme was in TNA, but I know that the WWE theme was not anywhere near what it was. Because I remember watching TNA.
It's just a bunch of cause.
Yeah. And I feel like, anyway, it doesn't even matter, because when Sting does come out, you get a pop anyway, so you can't hear the friggin' music anyway.
Yeah, and you won't see him again until Survivor Series, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If Sting goes away without having once come out to seek and destroy, I will be so disappointed.
Well, if Sting goes away without winning a goddamn match, everyone's going to be disappointed.
In theory, I would like to see him win at Night of Champions and then beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
and then just have that be the end.
I think that's the best way to put away The Undertaker, Because, I mean, you got everybody that does want to see Sting get a win. You wouldn't want The Undertaker to go out on a losing note to Bray Wyatt. you got to have him lose to Sting, and you can't have Undertaker win that, because what's the point of that?
Right, so Undertaker's got to beat Brock Lesnar just to make him look credible again.
Right.
And then just have him go to WrestleMania and have it be like a 10-12 minute match, and have Sting pull out the baseball bat and beat The Undertaker into oblivion. Or even make it a casket match.
And that mathematically, that means that Triple H is better than Lesnar.
So that almost guarantees that's the route they'd go with.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
SummerSlam 2016, Triple H and Brock Lesnar.
Yep. Triple H is the WWE World Heavyweight Champion without being the WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
They're just going to be fighting over a bag of popcorn because neither of them are going to have a championship.
So, I mean, I also want to... We didn't talk about the end of Lucha Underground, really. Basically...
the walk away?
Yeah, the whole sort of ending sequence. Which, I mean, like we said... Season 2 isn't a lock yet, but it's... I mean, there's a pretty damn good chance, I would say. Cueto takes his brother out of the cage. And we got like a sort of a glimpse of him in the back of the truck or whatever the fuck it was that he was driving. We saw Cueto leaving the temple, so that basically gives away that they're going to have a whole new venue for next season.
Which I think is actually really important because they did a good job of exploring the space in the temple, and they pretty much used everything that could be used for a spot. It got used for a spot, so a refresh of the setting will do a lot to alleviate something that could go stale pretty quickly in the second season and onward.
Yep. We talked about Drago and Aerostar. We saw Phoenix driving away out of the temple. Some dude follows him in a truck.
I'm pretty sure that was actually King Cuerno.
Really?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain.
It could have been. See, I couldn't, because it's hard to tell because there's not really a storyline that can lead you to believe either way.
That's a decent prey for King Cuerno to hunt, I figure.
Yeah, and he does need to come back up there. Like we said, he needs to be up at the top of that card. And then they showed Vampiro and Pentagon a little bit. And they also showed the Lucha Underground sign with that big question mark on it. Which I don't know if that's a Rey Mysterio teaser or not. But I can't imagine that if they can't fund a second season, that they can acquire Rey Mysterio. But hey, if they could, if they can pull off a second season and get Rey Mysterio on there, that's a hell of a step for Lucha Underground.
Well, Rey Mysterio is already AAA affiliated, so I don't think it should be that big of a leap.
Well, the issue is they said they need about $20 million in order to make the second season. And it's just too expensive to make in Boyle Heights, and the fact that El Rey has, like, peanuts to give over, because they're not an expensive network.
Yeah.
So it is coming down to something like an Amazon or a Netflix or one of those groups that can jump in and kind of help.
I'm sure.
Stir the pot.
I'm sure they could get fan donations too.
Yeah. They could easily fund it through Kickstarter if they wanted to, but even just another TV partner, a Univision or a Telemundo, would get that done just like that.
Yeah.
I'd say they're taking that show to Texas.
I say they go to Oswego, New York.
Yeah, we don't have tax breaks.
Yeah.
We don't even have those out here in Buffalo. So, no, like, I mean, Texas makes sense. Alberto El Patron and Hernandez already lived there, so.
Yeah.
And there's no income tax. And it's big wide open. Dario can send all of this coke back over to Mexico.
I think the Armory would make a really nice temple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
basketball hoops.
You see Angelico jumping from a basketball hoop into the ring.
Oh my god, they do have those like the big
balcony thing.
Yeah, the balconies by the rafters. They could pull something off in there.
It's so dark in there.
Yeah, but that's the atmosphere they're shooting for.
It'll be Dario Cueto's dungeon. And whenever they want to kill Phoenix, they'll just go out and throw him in the lake.
They have street fights on the train bridge.
Johnny Mundo comes walking in. Man, it's too fucking cold.
So now it's like we got Wednesday nights with no Lucha Underground. We got NXT that's squash matches. We got Ring of Honor, which is strong match-wise. Production-wise, not so much. And then you got TNA that's doing the Global Force situation, which they started this week. And next week, like we said, is EC3 and whoever the fuck we just said.
PJ Black.
Yeah. So I mean, Wednesdays are a little watered down now. I think Lucha Underground really was the high point of those Wednesday nights. And then, like I said, you got Raw and SmackDown, which are watered down as well. So it's a rough time right now, and it's hard to get, it's hard to stretch these podcasts out.
Well, I mean, pretty good job of it right now.
I mean, the next big thing we have is SummerSlam, and then after that, it's just going to be quiet until like Night of Champions. So,
right. And I mean, like I said, I'm not really super excited for SummerSlam.
No, just a couple. Like, I'm excited for an hour out of the 4 hours.
Yeah, and in 4 hours, I mean, give me a goddamn break. And if that's, I mean, that's not including a pre-show.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a pre-show.
So that's a 5-hour event. What the hell are they gonna do?
That's gonna be a long ass day.
Yeah, it makes... Wow, it really drives home how long it's been since we went to 2CW, because that was right before the last pay-per-view, and it's been a decent stretch between shows.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't feel like
But
that
I mean,
long at all.
not much has happened, so.
Yeah. And that's also primarily one of the reasons we haven't had any shows. We haven't been on the podcast is because there's not a whole lot to really talk about.
Yeah, we're hoping it picks up in the next run around, so right after SummerSlam.
It better. Yeah, and SummerSlam, after SummerSlam we're starting a new season anyway. So hopefully we can stretch everything out, get everything back in working order.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I think I'm ready to wrap.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think we about covered it.
All right.
Oh, actually, before we move on, there was the one thing I wanted to touch on. New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Climax Tournament. Last year, over the 11 or 12 days I think it was probably the highlight of the wrestling year of 2014. It had match of the year contenders every other night of the tournament. And you had the roster of the tournament was split into 2 blocks, your A block and your B block. 5 matches a night for each block. You'd have 10 matches per card every night. This year they've changed the format. You'll have 5 filler tag matches to start off the card, then you'll have your intermission, and then the 5 matches from one block. And it's really taken a lot of steam out of the tournament. The quality of matches hasn't been up to par as much, and it's really just been a lot less of an event, even with the increased number of shows. I believe they're running 19 nights this year for the tournament, and it's just taken a lot of hype out of the show. And like we were saying, it just goes along with, we seem to be running into a bit of a dry spell for wrestling. We were spoiled with Lucha Underground and the run that NXT was on, and
yeah, I think Lucha Underground was essentially our saving grace for the last couple months. You got really, NXT just really dropped off fast, and that was after. It seemed like after Finn Balor won the belt, that's when everything kind of dropped off, and it's sad because you got guys that you see. It's almost like they're pulling people up too fast. You pull up your entire women's division. You pull up Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn's injured. It's like you really don't have much to fall back on if you're NXT right now.
yeah, and they've had all
Also,
those. Go ahead.
tell me the last time a single belt was won on free television.
Yeah. I remember, actually, I looked that up, not like before the last podcast, and I never said it, but I believe it was the last time it actually changed hands was some bullshit, like somebody got stripped. I think it was Daniel Bryan getting stripped.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that's the last time a belt went away on free television.
Yeah, and that wasn't even a match.
No, and we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really bad that, like, there's no reason to watch. There's no reason to watch unless you're trying to watch for a build-up to the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the problem with NXT is you have all these call-ups all at once, and you're still waiting on the next takeover for everything to reset, because, I mean, you got your tag division with all the talent now. They've made that a focus of the shows. You've certainly got the talent left down there in the women's division to carry that.
Mm-hmm.
And Alexa Bliss has proved herself to be a terrific heel. You've got Bayley holding down the babyface side of things. And you've got your Dana Brooks, your Emmas, you've got plenty of female wrestlers down there that can work matches. They can get themselves pretty over.
Yeah.
It's just the main event scene is really so depleted at this
See,
point.
I think they do have the talent. I think they're really waiting for the Brooklyn takeover to really start moving people into those spots.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, they just announced, I think, 5 or 6 of the NXT superstars that used to wrestle and beat the guys getting squashed. Those guys have all gotten new names and new Twitter accounts affiliated with them, so once Brooklyn rolls around, they'll reset.
yeah, there's a reason some of these guys are on. Let me see if I can find a name here. Because we saw Steve Cutler a couple times. We've seen him like maybe 3 times in the last couple weeks. We've seen Dawson and Wilder coming up for the tag divisions. And then we saw Marcus Louis. So, I mean, they have guys that have been the jobbers that hopefully are going to be taking, filling up some bigger shoes, in the weeks to come. I think, like we said, it all comes down to TakeOver. And like I said, too, it's like you're draining that whole Divas division, and now you got, like, I think it was it Raw or SmackDown? I don't even freaking remember, but it all blends together to me. But they had 2 matches. It was SmackDown. They had 2 matches in the Divas division. It was Naomi and Charlotte, and then Charlotte and Becky Lynch versus Naomi and Sasha Banks. And it's like they're taking a big portion of the TV time now. So it's like you got to do something with that storyline, and I haven't seen it really go anywhere.
No.
And really NXT just now they're depleted of so much talent that it sucks realistically. So it's interesting to see after TakeOver where they go and how they're going to try and bounce back, because I feel like they're in a serious hole right now. And that's why the tag team division's coming to light.
Oh, I have it right here. I have a list of people that have had their names changed. Axel Tischer is now Alexander Wolf. Mike Rawless is now Riddick Moss. Lena Fanene now goes by Nia Jax, and Casey Cassidy is now Peyton Royce.
Oh, yeah, and it bears mentioning here that Uhaa Nation now has his NXT name. His name is now Apollo Crews, which I personally find ridiculous. If you're so inclined, you could almost find that borderline racist. Just take some famous black names and throw them in a blender.
Terry Crews gave it the thumbs up on Twitter.
We also saw Solomon Crow not too long ago, a couple weeks ago.
Oh, he got squashed this week.
Yeah, and it's like what are they doing? Like, do they not think he's ready? I mean, I don't know what the situation is there, but they have built him up in a mediocre fashion. People know he's there, but he hasn't been put in the actual scene yet.
No.
And it's unfortunate, because I think he's good enough. I think that the gimmick right now is what's not getting over, or at least in the writers' room.
There's really no gimmick at all. He's just got a slightly digital, electronic-sounding entrance music. I mean, it was implied that he's a hacker, but they've done nothing with it in terms of characterization.
Mm-hmm. I think it's like his look and just his character in general. I think it's one of those things that Vince would probably look at and not want to push.
And it doesn't help that the dude's like 5'6" in lifts.
Yeah.
But they referred to him by some nickname on NXT this week, and I actually think that's going to lead to a somewhat push for him, because they gave him a nickname, and for some reason it sounded really good. Like they called him Chaotic Midnight or Midnight Chaos or something like that.
Chaotic Midnight.
I don't know. At least it's better than Solomon Crow, the guy with the red hair comb over.
That's like a bad gamer tag.
Yeah.
It's like a 2005 Instant Messenger screen name.
Chaotic Midnight 96.
It's like the rejected name for Apollo Crews.
Yeah. Uh,
That's all I got.
yeah, I think I'm pretty much out. I'm all spent. So SummerSlam next Saturday or next Sunday.
Woo.
NXT Brooklyn soon.
Woo.
Next Saturday.
Really?
It's not this Saturday, but the following
It
Saturday.
is the day before SummerSlam, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because it's running counter to that ROH baseball stadium show.
That's gonna be
Which was actually a jacked card.
gonna be a rough weekend. Cause I mean you got what 2 hours of Takeover, 5 hours of SummerSlam, 7 hours of wrestling there. I actually have shit to do on Saturday, so I probably won't even see Takeover.
Yeah, I probably won't hear about it until like Sunday morning.
Oh, maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. But with that, I suppose we'll wrap. Thank you for listening. It's good to be back, I guess. Because, with the lack of things to talk about, it's tough. But, we will see you next time. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Same.
Same.
Same.